Talk 2. Socialism with Chinese characteristics and Chinese modernization.
We know that there's a close relationship between Chinese modernization and socialism with Chinese characteristics. But then, what is socialism? People have different understandings. How do you understand the term?
Well, this is a typically important political term in the modern political history and the political evolution of theory. And roughly speaking, socialism as a term appeared in the 19th century of the continental European culture. Well, socialism, in my understanding, originally is a very strong criticism upon the capitalism society. Because, the capitalism society is calling for equality, progress, freedom, something like that.
But they cannot achieve these ends.
Yes. Even around Jacques Rousseau, in the early Enlightenment period, philosopher in France, and he argued, what's the root for the inequality in the society? He said, why? In a society, according to the capitalism society's principle, the society is based on the free competition, the equal chance to proceed in the society. However, Rousseau says, no. When the society is driven by the maximization of self-interest, when the society is based on the principle of self-interest, this is not a humanistic society. It must be an unequal society. This is a very brilliant idea. It has been highly recommended by Karl Marx. And then after that, in the 19th century, even in the German philosophy, in the French social movement, socialism has been growingly popular in the contemporary culture. So roughly speaking, socialism, I think, is on behalf of the social consciousness or humanistic consciousness or the ethical consciousness of human beings. Why? Because we want an equal society. We want a balanced society. We want a society in service for or in the need of the social people, the whole people, not just in service for the few people, for the minority groups.
So in this sense, the socialist thought is actually in alignment with some deep callings or some deep pursuits of the traditional Chinese culture.
I think so, because, for example, self-interest, the maximization of self-interest as a principle, as a social principle, has never been a primary or dominant moral principle for the Chinese people, because our tradition never take it, and our social practice never take it, because it is absolutely against the Chinese tradition and the culture and the Chinese value system.
And the value system puts more emphasis, if not on the individual gains, individual benefits, then on what? The collective interests?
Yes, specifically, blood relationship is our primary concern, family value is our primary concern, and also we think in our inherent interpretation of human value, culture system, we think the pursuit of the so-called maximization of self-interest is a deteriorating lifestyle. If you refer to Confucianism, Taoism of the Chinese culture philosophy, if you refer to the historical practice of the Chinese people generation by generation, I would like to clarify, self-interest has never been the primary ideological pursuit of the Chinese people.
So culturally speaking, socialism is the inevitable choice of the Chinese people for the China's tradition. Then what is the socialism with Chinese characteristics, and what are the characteristics or the features of socialism with Chinese characteristics?
I think this question is in line with the same question like what is the Chinese modernization? Now, the first principle I have to emphasize is the Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics, or the Chinese modernization, by principle is always put the people on the first position. We want to build up a people-oriented, people-centered society with a people-centered philosophy. That is our tradition, and it is also our social practice nowadays. Well, I think intellectually, or we say theoretically, and the Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics is a combination or is an integration of Marxism with the Chinese social reality. Is a Marxism, is an integration of Marxism with the Chinese traditional culture and value. So they are complementary with each other, and they actually enriched each other simultaneously, and has built up a completed social political system, which is in response to the tradition, to the culture, to the value of the Chinese culture. And it has its own interpretation about modern democracy. It never followed the suit of the Western style of democracy, as we have seen, obviously, or there's a lot of foreign discussion in the Western journals. Their democracy has some problems, and the so-called representative system or has been deteriorating into a system that is in service for the minority group, not for the whole people, not for the whole nation. But the Chinese political system, in the sense of the Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics, will try to build up a political system in response to or in service for the whole people. That is why the Chinese government has the full confidence, because it is deeply, successfully rooted in the Chinese culture.
And that is also why the Chinese people have full confidence in the Communist Party of China.
Yes, I think that there's a growing confidence in Chinese society in terms of the political system, because it has proved to be very effective and of high efficiency and very much functional in dealing with a lot of social problems. There's no perfect governance style in this world, but there is appropriate governance style in response to the certain culture and tradition.
Right.
In this sense, I think CPC has found a very appropriate, effective governance style for the Chinese people in their road, on their way to modernization.
So socialism with Chinese characteristics, the way I understand it, is not something static, immutable. It is actually always in the process of evolution, of development.
Yes.
How do you understand this?
Well, socialism with Chinese characteristics is not something like that burst out from nothing. Yeah, it is really as you said, is an evolving concept, as well as a developmental social practice in different times, on different stages. As we have known, socialism with Chinese characteristics was put forward in the 14th National Congress of CPC. It is a contribution in the name of Deng Xiaoping theory. And after more than 40 years of social development, and socialism with Chinese characteristics has been staging up on a new time.
New era.
Yeah, we are stepping into a new era. And on each time, on every stage, I think the socialism with Chinese characteristic, and one thing that is in common in terms of the success is always make a very functional, feasible, practicable, and realistic response to the social practice, to the social reality. And this is, I think, the recipe for the success of CPC.
So socialism with Chinese characteristics is always responding to the ever-changing social reality of China. I mean, when the fundamental contradiction of China's society changes, socialism with Chinese characteristics also evolves. Can you say something about this?
Yes, I think the major social contradiction is a very important term we must give sufficient attention to, because it always is a decisive factor for the simultaneous changes of the policy, and because a successful policy ensures a successful governance. As far as I remember, when I was a teenager, the major social contradiction at that time, on the one side, is the people's need for material and cultural, spiritual need for a better life, for advanced life, and on the other side is the backward productive force. This is the fact. It was in about 30 years ago, China. But now, after more than 40 years of high development, China has been developing into a very, very prosperous economy in this world. And the Chinese people's material life has been very much advanced, very much improved. In this sense, according to the 19th National Congress, the paper of the 19th National Congress by CPC, is that the major social contradiction has been changing into, well, on the one side is people's growing need for a better life. Now, a better life, it's a very comprehensive term, for a better life, while on the other side is that the inadequate, unbalanced social development. Now, attention to these terms. They are seemingly a little bit vague. However, there's a very profound meaning that lies in these political terms. So we can draw an easy conclusion that socialism with Chinese characteristics, as you said, is not a transfixed concept. It's an evolving concept. And also, it has been invested with profound meanings, with ever-changing profound meanings in response to the different times and the stages. So the Chinese people are very much open-minded. According to our philosophy, we have the Book of Change. According to our wisdom, we are very much adaptable country to the world. So in this sense, Chinese modernization, as well as socialism with Chinese characteristics, is an open way instead of a closed way.